Welcome, folks. It's about 7 o'clock, so I guess we'll go ahead and get started here. How are we all doing this evening? Excellent. Pretty good. My name is Joe Ritter. I'm the programs manager here, and on behalf of the Fishing Heritage Center, I'd like to welcome you all and thank you all for joining us for our May AHA night. So just out of curiosity, how many of you, is this your first time being here to the center? Couple of you? Excellent. Well, welcome. Thank you. And it sounds like the rest of you have been here, so I see a lot of good tour guides here, so hopefully you can show our new friends around at the end of this presentation. Hopefully you've keyed up a bunch of things in your memory about this place as you go through. But what we do here for the new people is we tell the story past, present, and future of New Bedford's commercial fishing industry from the #1 fishing port in the nation. Tonight's theme for AHA Night in May is preservation and the celebration of all things history, preservation, and conservation. And tonight we are so lucky to be joined by Gary Golas, who's going to be providing us a little retrospective on the Barnacle magazine. Now, before we started, Gary did ask me, kind of in confidence, to be kind in my introduction of him. And I told him I didn't have any dirt on him to share. So hopefully, members from the audience, you can fill me in if there's anything you want to share.
Don't refer to my sister right now.
Excellent.
Hey, come on now, guys. Really. Wayne, knock it off. I could see it.
But no, we couldn't be more thrilled to have Gary joining us today. He's always been a longtime friend of the Fishing Heritage Center and of the waterfront here, and there's an absolute wealth of knowledge about everything to do with the fishing industry here. So Gary's presentation is going to last half an hour, 45 minutes. Afterwards, we're going to have some time for some questions and answers from the audience. So if you have any good questions or you think you could stump our presenter, feel free to jump right in. So without further ado, I'd like to turn it over to Gary. So thank you so much, folks.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you. Welcome. I have to say that there couldn't be a better introduction to this program tonight than this article that came out some 35 years ago when I started the Barnacle. Natalie White was a reporter for the Standard Times, and she wrote this regular weekly log called Harbor Log, and it said it all right there in the title. Barnacles cover the waterfront. Golas launches a new magazine. That's really the reason why we called it a Barnacle, because we wanted to cover the waterfront. I'm overwhelmed to give this talk because it brings a lot of different aspects that I've done along the waterfront into focus tonight. I have to tell you that I grew up a simple city kid, a North Ender in the north end of New Bedford, went to Ottawa School, Normandin, New Bedford High School. Then I went on to college, and when I was setting my sights between high school and college of what I wanted to do, journalism was not part of that destiny. Neither was news reporting. So I really had no clue that this was coming into being down the line. But when I was at college, I was very involved with community affairs in New Bedford. I love the city. I was very involved in a lot of political people that were running for office. I also helped festivals along the way. There was a number of festivals that were going on in that period of time, and I helped them put together their entertainment schedule and really got involved community-wise on that. Because of that activity, I caught the eye of the management of WNBH radio station. The general manager, Paul Levesque, along with Paul Battani, Billy Baldwin, and Barry Dowell, thought that I might make a good match with what they need. At that time, they were developing a festival called Rediscovery Days. And that Rediscovery New Bedford Days was the fact that they were putting on a festival at Leonard's Wharf, which is the furthest wharf closest to the old gas company down there. Their purpose, they were working with Mayor Jack Markey at the time to bring people back down to the waterfront, because this highway kind of just separated the waterfront from the industrial nature to the people that were living in the city and really had no desire to go beyond the highway. So they came up with this objective to put this festival together and bring people back down to the waterfront. They wanted me to help them with their entertainment. So this little, like I said, innocent New Bedford kid really never got involved in whining and dining, and they actually brought me one night, the first night, to skipper in for a dinner to talk about this whole affair. And I've never done this before. I don't know what to order or what, and they demanded I order the best of anything that I wanted on the menu. Filet mignon, get little necks, just we'll talk about things and don't worry about that whole thing. And I've never been wined and dined like that in my whole life ever. So it was quite an event. But till this day, and I love little necks now, and I go clamming a lot in Fairhaven. But every time I have a little neck, I think of that moment because it was so special and so unique that they gave me an uplift like you wouldn't believe. I didn't say what I was going for college for. I was actually going for my degree in criminal justice and law enforcement. I wanted to become a Massachusetts state trooper. I had friends that I went to school with, and they became troopers. And till this day, when I see a trooper on the highway, I just melt because it's exactly what I wanted to be at one time. But my destiny turned into another area. So I carried on with the radio station, helping them, volunteering my time to put together these festivals and the entertainment. And in a very short period of time, Paul Levesque, the general manager, offered me a job. He wanted to take me on at the radio station to work for him. I says, what do you want me to do? And he says, well, I'm going to make you a DJ. And I said, okay. I have a very heavy New Bedford accent. I can't believe that I would be on the radio with this kind of accent. And he said, don't worry about it. You'll have a good time. So they were into disco hits at the time. So I was spinning records playing disco music, something I never even dreamed I would be doing. And within a year or so, I started taking on an interest with the news department, and Russ Baldwin, who was the news director there, wonderful man, gave me some stories to cover, so I went out to cover the stories. Shortly thereafter, the radio station was looking to create another revenue source to get more sales into the radio station, so they suggested, and not suggested, they basically told me that we're going to make you a waterfront reporter. What they found was that they seen that Bill Brennan on WBSM was very successful in what he's been doing all those years, and continued to carry on a crowd that the radio station thought that maybe WNBH could try to attract as well. So we started a waterfront report live from Captain Jay's Pub, and I'll never forget those days when I went down there, the first days when I went down there to try to meet all the fish buyers, and it's a picture just like that. They were all yelling and screaming and giving all the prices, and excuse me. Between all that, I got to meet some people. It was very intimidating. It was definitely a crowd I didn't know, let alone whether they would accept me or not. But I met some people that said they would take me under their wings and they would introduce me to everybody. And then after I got my prices, I walked next door to Captain Jay's Pub, which is in the cellar of the now Black Whale restaurant. That was owned by the Bergerons, Billy Bergeron and Armand Bergeron. And we had that's me right there with Mike Andrews, right at Captain Jay's Pub. Mike Andrews was, if you may remember, he was the second baseman for the Red Sox. That day we had a Jimmy Fund Radiothon going on, so he came down to be part of the Jimmy Fund Radiothon. Clem Daly, a dear friend of ours, we lost many years ago, but he was a big supporter and promoter of the fishing industry. I believe, wasn't Clem the one that designed the fisherman logo? I believe he was in charge of that. That's my friend John Lenahan. He was the National Fisheries Liaison in New Bedford, a dear friend of ours. Very, very nice man. We lost him a number of years ago too. I haven't changed, huh? But anyhow, I got involved with the radio station and I started doing the fish news, and that was a wonderful experience that we had. We're going to be going through some slides here of just what the Barnacle is made up of. The days of the radio station lasted till about 1986. During that period of time, 1984, I met the love of my life, Kathy, right here. We got married and started having a wonderful life. In '86, I realized that maybe I should look for greener pastures in terms of financial and my ability to work on radio or news reporting wasn't there. So I decided to try to go after other jobs. During that period of time, it's about 3 years worth of time, I jumped from one job to another job to another job. It really didn't work out for me. And I remember one night, Kathy works as a nurse, she still does, and I would pick her up around 6, 7 o'clock at night, bring her some supper, and would go sit at either Buttonwood Park or Shaw's parking lot, whatever, and we'd talk. And that one night, I remember telling her that I missed the radio station days. I miss news reporting. I missed the waterfront. I really enjoyed a lot that I did down there, and I wish that I could do something with that, but there was no way I was going to go back to the radio station because they didn't have that report anymore. After that period of time, the auctioning went into the display auction format, and it wasn't public like you see over here. So Kathy and I were talking about that, and we came up with an idea that maybe you could still do it. Maybe you could do a newspaper, magazine, whatever. And I said, well, that sounds interesting, but can we do it? She says, let's do it. Let's work on it. So from that point onward, I got so excited. It was like that night just lit up a fire in me, and I said, wow, maybe there's a possibility here. So I ended up doing a lot of research into it. I also met with, you remember a man by the name of Donald Jason. He operated the Mattapoisett Presto Press at the time. He did it from 1958 through the 60s into the 70s. He was very successful. If you remember the Mattapoisett Presto Press, I think it's still around. I'm not sure. It's not around anymore. But it was loaded with ads. Had very little editorial in it. It was a very, very successful publication. Donald was a publisher himself, so he had all the equipment in his shop where he could just print out this publication. He did extremely well. He gave me a lot of tips on how to start a newspaper or magazine. I got a lot of the, information from him. The other thing that was interesting about starting a publication like this was that I needed to get into better computers. I needed to buy a desktop publishing system that would enable me to design the ads, design the paper, and the best one that I could find is an Apple computer at the time. So we bought an Apple computer with a scanner and a printer and the software. I'm talking about 1989 now. That cost $15,000. I know. You have to laugh because you can go today to Best Buy or whatever and buy those three things in the hundreds of dollars, not at $15,000. That was amazing. But we did it. We made the jump, and we did it. We bought it, and we had that working. The other thing that I found very interesting at the time in 1989, 1990 was that for me to generate stories, I wanted the access to try to get into connecting with people, with the National Marine Fisheries Service or Woods Hole or the Coast Guard. And there was a thing that I noticed that the universities were using at the time, and it was the earlier internet. It wasn't public. It was closed to the academia of the world, and Professor Brian Plumb over here can appreciate that at the time. So in my interest to try to see if I could tap into that, I connected with the Chamber of Commerce in New Bedford, and they connected me to a professor at UMass Dartmouth, which was SMU at the time, I believe. And I talked to him. I says, is it possible I could get a membership into this thing so I can find my stories? He says, no, that can't be possible. So I was let down with that, and I just couldn't believe that what could be so golden for me I couldn't access it. And think about it today. Think about what we have today in our connections. My wife just used chat, whatever you call that. She asked a question and she got her answer instantly. But anyhow, when I started the Barnacle, it was within a year or two that AOL came out. And when AOL came out, that was a game changer for me as well. So I could get a lot of stories and I could get a lot of sources that I could do with the story. So I started the Barnacle, and that was in 1990. May 10th was the first issue that came out, and that's 2 days from now. Today is May 8th. 2 days from now, May 10th in 1990, it came out. It was fascinating, and if I could read here what I put for the publisher note of that article, or that first issue is, hello once again, my friends. Guess what? I'm back along the waterfront. To tell you the truth, I couldn't get this media stuff, reporting stuff out of my blood. I decided to start the Barnacle, a free news magazine that New Bedford could call its own. And it really is something special. It was designed to be your magazine about you, the New Bedford fisherman, boat owner, fish buyer, lumper, seafood worker, and all others who had made this seaport the best in the country. You'll be able to join us with your letters to the editor, your classified ads, unique message page, and recipes from the galley, and enjoy the good word games that I'm going to have in it as well to pass your time. It exactly is what I wanted to plan for this paper. I wanted it to be a two-way street. I wanted it to be shareable. I wanted it to be something that everybody wanted to grab. I also made it free of charge, and the only way to do that is I had to go after advertisers. And I had a number of great advertisers along the waterfront. One of them is here tonight, Radar, from Radar's netting company, and they've been, for the whole life of the Barnacle, was supportive of that. It worked for a number of years, and I was extremely pleased with that. Unfortunately, 1990, for those of you who are in the fishing industry, can remember that it was also a period of time that the fishing industry regulations were taking effect, and people started fishing less days. People were losing their jobs, businesses were closing, and unfortunately there was some hard times coming for the fishing industry. It started in 1990 and it just kept going downhill ever since. I was part of that. I tried to keep it going. We had a lot of fun doing the paper. We had Kathy's cousin, Karen Gomes, started with us and started selling ads for us and try to get people on board. One of my people that demanded that we have the magazine there all the time was National Club, Dick Alcobia. If I didn't have the magazine there on time, he would be calling me on the phone saying, I need them, where are they, Gary? These guys really want this magazine, and they really enjoyed it. He was a really good guy that cared for a lot of fishermen and took good care of them. But the challenging times were there, and I started feeling it as a business. I didn't have enough financial commitments coming in to support the paper, and it was probably about 1996 that Kathy and I suggested we're trying to start a family, and she suggested that I didn't have health insurance, so suggested that maybe I should look for a real job. So so it was a hard bullet to bite, but she was right, and so I ended up looking around, and I was fortunate that I heard of the fisherman retraining program starting with the city of New Bedford. So I approached them and I says, you know, there's a chance that maybe I could work for you guys. And they lit up. They says, oh yeah, we would love to have you. So I ended up becoming the fishing center coordinator for the retraining program there. So I took that on. It was great benefits, nothing like working for the city of New Bedford in terms of benefits at that period of time I had. And I still ran the Barnacle. It was the second job for me. It started getting a little bit more of an effort to put it together. And I ended up, I think in 2000 or so, I just felt like we couldn't do it anymore. So we kind of said this is the last issue, and that was it. I had that job with New Bedford for a while. I can tell you though, it was interesting in terms of the commitments that I made, or the people that I met along the way, that it still stayed important throughout that whole job with the city of New Bedford and with the Barnacle, that so many people were so supportive of that. Could I have sold the Barnacle? I talked to a couple of people. One guy wanted to come on board and say, no, I want to keep the name and I want to run it as a recreational fishing magazine. And I says, well, that's not really what the Barnacle was, but you can do what you want. But he never really ran with it. He never did anything with that. So the Barnacle was never sold. I also have to tell you that, which I didn't say earlier, is that this header on the top was designed by our dear friend, the late artist Arthur Manise. When I met with him, I wanted this particular thing with the mermaids on each side and a scallop shell on the top here. And Arthur came up with this outstanding design that we have for the Barnacle header that we used when we had the Barnacle. As you know, the waterfront connections seem to not go away. It's like a magnet. I seem to keep getting connected with the waterfront. For New Directions, I ended up leaving New Directions. I became the harbor master of Fairhaven for 10 years. I loved the job. It was very political, but the political end of stuff just caught up with me and I couldn't take it anymore. It was just, you know, if you could just leave me alone and put me on my boat, I would love to do it. But the interesting part about that job was that my degree that I got with criminal justice and law enforcement 25 years ago, I could use on this job. And when I became harbor master, the state of Massachusetts started a certification program for harbor masters. So I ended up spending, I think, 2 months at Mass Maritime Academy learning the maritime end of the job, and another 2 months at the police academy in Plymouth doing the law enforcement end of things. And one of the professors that I had at Salve Regina College, Bob McCarthy, was also teaching at the police academy at that time. So 25 years later, I have the same professor teaching me law enforcement. I was floored by that. So my degree didn't go bad. I ended up using it, and I wasn't, as harbor master, I wasn't the cop. I mean, some people wanted me to be the cop. I wasn't the cop. I did more of the management stuff in the harbor. I had that job for a little while, and then D.N. Kelly Shipyard asked me if I would come on and work with them. Shortly after I started with Dave Kelly, which was a wonderful man, Fairhaven Shipyard bought him out. So now I'm working with the Isaacsons and Kevin McLaughlin at Fairhaven Shipyard. I've been there for 19 years. I can't believe it's been that long. But I run the health, safety, and environmental stuff for the shipyards, which is a big job. And I love it. I'm not going anywhere. I'm still at the waterfront, and I can't seem to leave, guys. I don't know what it was. Like I said, I'm just a simple new city kid. So, so that's my program. With the Barnacle. I'm sure you might have a lot of questions. I welcome any questions you might have, any comments. Oh, I have to tell you, there's 2 places. The Fish Heritage Center here has a number of barnacles that they are digitizing. So if you want to do some research, or you just want to read some, Joe, you know it's digitized, right? Connor Godet has been working on that. Also, a lot of the pictures that I've used in the Barnacle I gave to Connor, so he has a lot of that stuff. And the Fairhaven Millicent Library did a number of issues that they've digitized over there. They have the hard copies too. So if there's any time that you're looking to look at any past issues of the Barnacle, I'm on it. I just feel like it was a special time for me. I just wish it could have been a lot more financial lucrative for me, but it wasn't. But it was a fun time. It served a purpose. I just remember that one night when I was sitting with Kathy in that parking lot, thinking that, you know, I got to get back to the waterfront, and she says, "Let's do it. Let's do it." And we did it, and I loved it. It was a fun time. Any questions? Thank you. Yeah.
What type of stories did you run?
That's a good question. A lot of stories I handled because I knew stuff was coming up, like regulations and hearings that are coming up, so I covered those. I went there and I actually covered them and I wrote the stories. But my first my first issue was based. There was a story on there that was based on the Solimar. If you remember the Solimar, it was owned by Hokinson, dear friend of mine. It was a classic case of a sinking that went bad because the Coast Guard ended up thinking that the call for help on their radio was a hoax call. It wasn't a real call. And so they ended up, I think, eventually not doing the search. But it ended up being that the Solimar did sink. It was a father and his son and a dog off of Vineyard, maybe between Vineyard Haven and Block Island somewhere. And after a week or so, the family and friends of Hokie ended up trying to organize a search party because the Coast Guard didn't want to do any more. They didn't think anything was going on, but everybody knew that there was a missing boat and it never came back. The crowd or the friends, and it was a big crowd of people, divers, Lindbergh Marine had the barge. They ended up going out to a spot where they believed Hokie fished. And the day that they got there, they found some bubbles coming up from the bottom, thinking that was a potential here. When they ended up getting to that spot, the story was really moving, is the fact that a seal came up on one side of the barge and looked at the guys, and came under the boat and looked at the guys on the other side. And after that, the seal took off. They did some diving on that site and they found the boat. I'm not sure they found Hokie on it, and I don't believe the son. I think they found the son's body off of the Vineyard one a little while down. But that story really hit me. Because I knew Hokie, number one, but number two, just the fact that this whole crowd of people cared so much that they ended up trying to find a search party to try to go after him. And then the seals came up. That was just amazing of a story. That was one of my first stories that I had in Barnacle. But it was moving. And so I would cover stories that I knew I could handle. I also have people that would volunteer to write some stories for me. Like the Coast Guard notes, I had the direct connection with Woods Hole, so they would give me the logs and the fishing. At the time it was the display auction. They would send me the prices and give me all the information on the fish prices. And I invited people who knew of birthdays and anniversaries, so make a comment in there for the birthday page to acknowledge their events. So I did a lot of that. Any other question? Yeah.
I have a question. This is my first time hearing what the Barnacle was back in the day, and I think it's really cool. But I'm wondering if in the future, 25, 30 years, you'll do like a reissue or a limited edition of what the Barnacle is.
Can I ask my wife that question?
You have health insurance now, you're all set.
You're right. You're right. It's still there. I mean, you know, the world of publication is changing so fast, and you could do it so instantly online now, which is not a problem. When I started it, I actually had to create this big 4x4 piece of paper that I had to glue my ads onto, and then I would bring this 4x4 paper down to the publisher, which I had in Orleans, down the Cape. So we would bring it down all the way down there, and he would print it, and they were great for it. It's the Cape Cod magazine, I think it did it. And then he'd call and say it's ready, so we'd have to drive down there, get all the barnacles, and come back here and distribute it with every place. So today would be probably a whole lot easier, and maybe cheaper too, because you'd have to spend the $15,000 to get the computer equipment. But it's a good question. It's there, and there's always a need to communicate. And I'm not sure if I'm challenged yet on that question, but yes.
At your peak, how many copies would you print?
How many what?
How many copies would you print for each issue?
That's a good question. I don't remember. I want to say about 500. More? I'm just trying to think of how many I used to give to businesses. Oh, okay. Yeah, my wife. Yeah, I know. It did fill up a car. I mean, you're right. That's a good question, though. I'm not sure if I have the records to even see, but.
How many businesses did you drop it off at, roughly? I'm not asking exactly.
That's another tough question, because I can tell you. I mean, I can visually remember every place I dropped it off at. It was as many as I could do it. One of my biggest places were like the supermarkets, like Stop and Shop and Shaw's at the time. And then they came up with this policy that they wouldn't allow people to distribute papers from there, so I had to drop that. But the steadfast people were the waterfront businesses, New Bedford Ship Supply Radar, the settlement houses. We had a number of them, the fuel supply places, Jacoby with National Club, and you name it. There was others along the whole waterfront, the shipyards. So we had a good amount. I also started a subscription service that if you lived out in Virginia and you wanted to get a copy of this, I think it was $10 a year or something. It was very cheap, just to cover the cost of the postage. And I sent that to I think, wasn't it? Yeah, Brian got.
Almost all the way to New Hampshire.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. Yeah.
Was there a lot of photography in it?
A lot of photography? Yeah, I did most of it, of all the pictures, and those pictures, like I said earlier, I gave to the center here. I also got pictures donated from me. We have a number of people. I try to encourage that with fishermen going out. If you have any fishing pictures when you're out at sea, anything in particular, give it to me. And I did get quite a bit. The interesting part about photography is that when the Barnacle came out, there were always fishermen looking to see who's in that paper today, who's on the front page. You know, did I get you on the front page at all? Yeah. Yeah, Wayne was on the front page. He's famous. I don't know if you know. But there was always that desire for a lot of fishermen to find themselves on the front page or their friends to try to identify who's in the Barnacle this year. I also came out twice a month. It was not just once a month, but twice a month that I did it. I do have to tell you that I talked to Joe already about this, but I'd like to do another program like this where we have the news reporters that cover the waterfront. Nancy Drucker from the Standard Times is still around, very active with the center. Jim Phillips from WBSM is the news reporter there. Barry Richard, who took over my spot at WNBH, is still on the air. So there's a number of us that had some connections in covering the waterfront, and it was fabulous when you could do the live stuff and to cover stuff that was going on. I covered the good times as well as the bad times, the bad strikes we had, along with a lot of the good stuff that happened as well.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you so much. Peace be with you. Oh, and is it great? We have a new pope today, too.